Just yes or no, is there something that you're thinking of that has to do with a motorcycle or motorbike?
Yes.
It has to do with, is your wife with you?
Yes.
Interesting. Has to do with your wife as well. Did you propose to your wife on a motorbike?
Yes.
Give us some applause. Take a seat.
So, password to their cell phone. If your password to your cell phone is 4471, just yell out.
Somebody is thinking about the city of Westminster. Where is that person? Westminster. Right there in the front. Or near the front, right by you. Good. You can take your hands off your mouth now. It's okay. Pass the mic down, please. What? Is there a 4 in there?
Yes.
And a 6?
Yes.
Think of the street. Edro?
Oh my.
Is that Edro? Is it Edro Isle? Is that right?
Yes.
You are thinking about a very long series of numbers. Am I correct?
Yes.
Is this a phone number, or what kind of number is this?
Delta Sky Miles.
The Delta Sky Mile number. You're just going to answer me after each digit. Are you ready? 2,
Yes.
2,
Yes.
1,
Yes.
0,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
3. That's the hesitation. Is it a 4? A 3, 4?
Yes.
7, 9?
Yes.
That's it? Good. Give us some applause.
Bringing back the mentalist, Mr. Brent Webb.
Hey guys, it's Brent. I want to welcome you. Today we're going to be doing something a little different than what I normally do. I'm going to be doing a book summary, a book review, and it's on The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Now the concepts in this book, they can come across as very simple, but don't let that trick you into dismissing them without any contemplation. Now these concepts, they are simple, but they are so profound. The power of now gets into some really deep stuff that needs to be reflected on way beyond this short book summary. And with that said, keep an open mind going into this, because you may get an initial reaction to resist what the book teaches. But just put your opinions and judgments to the side for a few minutes and consider the possibilities that the 3 concepts I want to focus on today are, we'll start with the first, all right? Concept number 1 is you are not your mind. Concept number 2 is the present moment is all we have. And finally, number 3 is that it's what so many other lessons in his book is about, but I want to focus on, and it's just acceptance, accepting the now, okay? So these are the 3 I want to focus on now, just to keep it simple. And then down the line, I'll probably do another part. So if you'd like me to do part 2, make sure you tell me in the comments below. Send us a message. All right? So The Power of Now is an amazing book. If you've never read it, you need to. If you've read it before, read it again. We're going to talk about, first of all, the first lesson from that book that I think is the most important. It's the fact that you are not your mind. You are not your mind, you are not your thoughts. Now that's a bold statement, and I know that. But you see the problem with humanity, it's so deeply rooted in the mind. You know, the mind itself is an incredible, useful tool, but we have become identified with it. The tool, as they say, has taken over the master. We believe that the mind and its constant stream of thoughts is who we are. But we're much more than that. And I'm sure by now you've noticed that your mind is constantly chatting away. That bitchy roommate up there, the voice in your head speculates, it complains, it judges, it compares, and on and on. and on. We habitually think and we worry about the future. And if we're not doing that, then we're replaying the past. All these past events in our mind, our thoughts, our mental dialogues, they're compulsive. They have taken us over. And the insane thing is, we don't even realize it. Most of us are on autopilot almost 99% of the day. We just go through life chatting to ourselves incessantly and letting our conditioned mind lead us around like a dog on a leash. Very early in the book, Eckhart talks about being free of the mind and being in the car, and wanting to know if you have the off button for your mind. Because if you do, you can stop the stream of thoughts and just be the answer, A great way to do it is in the car. If you are driving and, to be more present, it's most of us get to where we're going without even knowing how we got there. If you don't know how to turn your mind off, it means you're unconsciously identified with the mind. It's using you, and you probably don't even know it. You don't even realize there's so much more to you than just that stream of thoughts. Now, if you're hearing this for the first time, you may be confused. You may say, well, if I'm not my thoughts, then what am I? Well, that's a great question. That's a deep question. That's the question that leads most of the people onto a spiritual journey. And in my opinion, asking, what am I, is one of the most important questions that you can ask. It's the beginning of self-inquiry. It's the beginning of self-awareness and mindfulness. Whatever you want to call it, that is the first step. Because then you begin to get closer to realizing who and what you truly are. But it starts with awareness. You start by listening to the voice in your head as often as you can, instead of being consumed or identified with your thoughts. You take a step back and just observe them. You try to create a sort of separation from yourself. When you lean back and away from the problem, you create separation that allows the energy to pass through. It's a separation from yourself. It's a separation from the thoughts. It's super easy to get wrapped up in the stream of thoughts that your mind is constantly coming up with. And it doesn't turn off until you go to sleep. And then for a lot of you, it doesn't even turn off then. All you've got to do is just try your best to catch yourself in the stream of thought. Man, that is 90% of the battle. When you realize that your mind is doing it, don't be upset with yourself. Rejoice and be happy because you know it's happening. Most people don't ever realize it. All right? So just try to catch yourself in the stream of thought and observe what's going on. Make it a game. Like you're pretending to watch something in a lab under a microscope or something, You just observe the reactions, the thoughts, and so on. But you're doing that as the observer. You're not getting pulled into it. And after you've done this for a while, you start to ask yourself if you notice any repetitive thought patterns. And trust me, you will. Be there as the witnessing presence of your thoughts. And do so without any judgment. That is so important when you remove judgment because it gives you your power back. Stop judging yourself. Stop judging other people. Stop judging the world around you. It strips you of your power. You just need to be there as the witnessing presence of your thoughts. No judgment. Just take note throughout the day of what your mind is doing. And I'll guarantee you, most of the time, there's negatives going on there. Because once you get a glimpse into your mind, the real mind, the subconscious mind, the man behind the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. But guess what? When you rip that curtain away inside your mind, the man disappears because they hold no power over you when they're revealed to the light. You're able to watch the thinker in your mind much more objectively when you observe your thoughts. you'll start to see that there's a higher level of consciousness at play. You are that higher level of consciousness. Anything by Eckhart is amazing, but you got to start with the power of now. A New Earth is fantastic too, but this book is the building block, is the foundation for the changes that you want to make. Nothing is more important than now. Yesterday is over, tomorrow isn't promised, and it's never going to happen the way you think and you worry about, but we strip ourselves of our power because now is the only time we can access it. But we're always, worried about the past or off in the future somewhere. Every time we're doing something, we're always anticipating the next moment. We're never appreciating the moment that is, and that's all there really is. That's all there really is. That is where your power base is. So consider observing your thoughts. Do it this week. You can be the person that's inside, and it's almost comical. It's like watching a child have a tantrum. You can do that without being pulled into it. That's the trick, is remaining separate from the thought stream. The only thing that your mind does is it gives you the past. So whatever is happening in front of you, it's trying to calculate all the past things that you've done and get close to what's happening in front of you to give you the idea of what's happening. That is how we continue down the same path for the rest of our lives, because we are living pretty much in the past by trying to create the future around what we think we already know. We're going to break out of all of that. There is so much more consciousness at play, universal consciousness that connects us all together. You will realize you're absolutely much more than you ever thought. You are beyond what you ever thought possible. And over time, as you become better at observing your thoughts, you'll feel a deeper presence behind the thought. And when that happens, the thought loses its power over you, because you have identified the thought and you've disidentified yourself from it, from the thought stream. You have disidentified from the mind. Now, if you keep this practice up for long enough, a little bit at a time, eventually you'll start to experience gaps between thoughts. They call that no mind, and no mind is bliss. It's amazing. That's where we go to in meditation, in the right moments. This is what we're going for. At the beginning, these gaps will be short. Your subconscious was programmed before you were 10 years of age, and it is programmed with information that's no longer relevant. It's out of date. It's rusty programming. But you never realize that tape is running in your head. So by putting these gaps in that tape, you start to be able to re-record your programming. You start to fill it with positive messages, with affirmations. You start to manifest in your world. First of all, they'll start out short, those gaps, but they get longer. They get longer. The no mind gap is not some trance state. It's the opposite. You're not sitting cross-legged in a mountain cave somewhere meditating. You're not in some deep trance. You're fully awake, you're fully alert, and you're fully present in this state. Now, another way to get into this state of no mind is to focus your attention in the now, intensely conscious of the moment. This is all we have. It draws your attention away from the mind and into the now. You are alert and aware, but you're not thinking. You can do this anytime throughout the day if you're waiting in line or at a stoplight. Become intensely aware of the moment you're in. Let go of thought and see things without the filter of your mind, without your mind labeling things or judging things. It's very challenging at first, but do not give up. I never in a million years would have ever thought I could be at this point. Years ago, when I first started meditating, I couldn't go 5 seconds without my mind telling me my leg hurts, my back hurts, I'm ready for lunch, I need to do this, I got to call this person, I have to do this. I can now sit for 45 minutes in complete silence, connected to my inner being, and it is the most bliss-filled experience I've ever had. I've earned millions of dollars in my career. I've been all over the world. I've done unbelievable things. I get more bliss and joy sitting alone at my house than I do, touring the world. buying the most expensive things, driving the greatest cars. None of that shit matters. And Eckhart, it makes it so easy to understand. It's just the filter of your mind and the way it looks at things. Most of us are so negative. We label and we judge everything. But once you get a glimpse of this and a feeling of this no mind, and that feeling that you get like the first time you got kissed or the first new car you ever drove or anything like that, you get that rush of energy inside you. And those things, for most of us, come few and far between. You can get that every single day by becoming mindful and becoming very, very coherent of the now, of this moment. It's a very confusing concept if you've never heard it before. So let's hit on a couple of Eckhart's quotes, and it'll really drive home to you before we get into the next thing I want to talk about. The single most vital step on your journey toward enlightenment is to learn to disidentify from your mind. Every time you create a gap in the stream of mind, in the light of your consciousness, it grows stronger. The wider the time gap between perception and thought, the more depth there is. The more depth there is to you as a human being, which is to say, the more conscious you are the moment your attention turns to the now. You feel magic. You feel a presence, a stillness, a peace. You no longer depend on the future for fulfillment and satisfaction. You don't look at it for salvation. One day you may catch yourself smiling at the voice in your head. Like I said earlier, I do that, and it's like looking at a child, you know? It means you no longer take the content of your mind all that seriously, as your sense of self does not depend on it. For most of us, the mind has become out of balance. Our compulsive thinking is an addiction of sorts. The only way out is to realize the truth. You are not your mind. Stop right now. And if you don't pick up anything else from this video, pick up this. You are not your mind. You are not your thoughts. The mind is simply a tool to be used when necessary. You can still pursue goals, but you'll realize there's nothing in the future that will save you or make you happy. You don't need anything in the future to be happy because you're here right now. So be happy. This is the moment. Stop looking outside of yourself for happiness. Stop looking for someone else to give you what only you can grant yourself. Now, this brings us to lesson number 2. The present moment is all we ever have. So live there in the here and the now. As mentioned earlier, minds like to be preoccupied thinking about the past or thinking about the future. We are very rarely in the present moment. They say 40% of the time is spent in the past. I wish I had done this. Why didn't this happen? I would be here if only I had done this. Useless, looping. 40% of the time we're in the future, worried, petrified over things that will never happen and definitely won't happen the way you think they will. Only 20% of the time are we ever in the now. And the now is what matters. Our goal, and Eckhart's goal with this book, is for us to be more grounded in the present moment. And yes, thinking and planning for the future is necessary. It's definitely necessary in today's world. But let's be honest, over 90% of that thinking that we do, 60,000 thoughts a day, it's repetitive. And unless we change the way that we perceive our mind and the fact that it is not our master, we don't realize it's useless information. Your mind will tell you one thing, and as soon as something comes up to prove it's wrong, it will go completely in the other direction and switch in midstream and give you both sides. If you hired a person to give you advice and they gave you the type of advice your mind does, you'd fire their ass. It's repetitive, it's useless, and 90% of the time it's negative. Don't take my word for it. Listen to your mind right now. Pause this and listen to your mind for 10 minutes, and you'll see for yourself what it's saying. Now, when I started doing this, I realized that my mind was just a rambling stream of mostly random and repetitive thoughts. I called it the bitchy roommate. You've got someone up there, your bitchy roommate, narrating your life with negative thoughts. Now, if this offends you, well, you know, you have to look deeper, because if this offends you, that's your ego. All right? That is just your ego. It's like having a tape recorder full of negativity on repeat, and it's just looping up there in your mind. Okay? Your ego is the one getting offended, because you're not your thoughts. You're not your ego either. Eckhart tells us the only thing that is ultimately real about our journey is the step you are taking at this moment. You may have an outer purpose and outer goals, but they should not take up so much of your attention that they become more important than the step you are taking right now. Because now is all there is. Remember, the mind is always trying to escape the now, since it has no power here. The mind needs the past and the future. It needs memory and it needs anticipation to exist. It hides from the present. It wants to live in the past and create a story for itself. Or it wants to look into the future towards some kind of fulfillment. As Tolle says, time and mind are inseparable if you take away time. By focusing on the now, the mind falls to the background. Time and mind are inseparable. If you take away time by focusing on the now, the mind falls to the background. Observe how your mind habitually escapes to the past and to the future. The moment you realize you're not present, you become present. You become present when you observe that you're not present. You are trapped, but you're releasing yourself. That is what Eckhart refers to as the silent watcher. The more you were focused on the past and the future, the more you miss the now. Another great point here is that you can always handle the present moment. Listen to this, because this is mind-blowing. If you can get this in your head, you can always cope with the now problems. Problems arise. It's when you get wrapped up in the what ifs and the I shoulds and the I should have. That is when you get screwed. But everything usually is fine in the present moment, at least enough to be able to handle it. And because of that, you're handling it from a much better position. You're in a much more stable position. Whatever comes your way as it happens, you deal with it. But when you get so wrapped up in the future and start worrying about tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now, that's when stress arises. That's exactly where worry and anxiety come from. Ask yourself what is missing in this moment. Really contemplate that answer, because I'll tell you what it is. It's nothing. All these wants and desires and regrets, they come from the mind's obsession with the past and the future. You can't cope with the future because it's a mind projection. It's not real. Is there ever any other time except the moment you're in? No matter when you think of the past, in the future, you're doing it in the now. If the present moment is all we ever have, shouldn't we be fully present in the moment we're in? We should make that the focus of our daily lives. It is our power position. It is the entry point for mindfulness and for manifestation. The now is the sweet spot. The now is what puts you into the zone. Everything moves to your command. Everything moves in slow motion. Athletes, professional athletes that earn multi-millions of dollars a year, they understand this. They know what this means. You got to make this a part of your daily life. Stop going back to the past or planning for the future. Now, planning for the future, you've got to make plans, but obsessing over the future and worrying about things that will never happen the way you think is unnecessary energy. You're using all that life force energy. All you need to do is keep your primary focus on the now. Eckhart says, have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside the now? Think about it. Have you ever experienced, done, thought, or felt anything outside of the now? You haven't, because it's impossible. Nothing happens outside. The answer is obvious. Nothing has ever happened in the past, and nothing will ever happen in the future. It happens in the now. A memory is a trace from a former now. That is all that is. The past is just a trace of the former now. And you are recalling in the now. Do you have any problem in the present moment? No. Not tomorrow or in 30 minutes, but right now. You're living, you're breathing. You are exactly where you're supposed to be. But you can get into the moment. You can take control of your life. That's where dreams, goals, those things, you can actually make them happen. If you set yourself a goal and work towards it, you're using clock time. You are aware of where you want to go, but you honor and give your fullest attention to the step that you're taking at this moment. Usually, the future is a replica of the past. Superficial changes are possible, but real transformation is rare and depends on whether you become present enough to dissolve the past by accessing the power of now. How does your mind operate? Are you always trying to get somewhere other than where you are? When you're doing something, is it in anticipation of the next moment? Is the payoff always in the future? If it is, you are setting yourself up for misery. You've got to be in the now. If you're washing your hands in anticipation of cutting up vegetables and you're living in that moment, you're not in the now. It's much better to actually wash your hands, feel the water, smell the soap. Allow yourself to be in the moment. Fulfillment, for most people, is always right around the corner. If your actions are just a means to an end, that's what that means. Fulfillment is just around the corner or confined to short-lived pleasures, such as sex, food, drinks, drugs, or thrills and excitement. Or you always focus on becoming, achieving, entertaining, whatever, but more things. More things will make you fulfilled, right? More things will make you a better person. More things will make people like you. More things will make people jealous of you. More things will make you good enough or psychologically complete enough. Only one thing can free you from all of this bullshit, and it's the present. The present can free you from the past. And finally, I want to talk about the third most important thing that I got from this book, and that is acceptance. Acceptance of what is. So while you're being grounded in the moment, you also want to be completely accepting of it. You don't want to allow any resistance to come in. You may think that the situation creates the suffering, but that's not it. Your resistance is what's creating the suffering. Accept the moment as it is now. When you resist, what happens is you create pain for yourself. Between what is and what your expectations are, there is a gap. And depending on how wide that gap is, more and more stress and unpleasant feelings. That's where resistance lies. Again, the first step in awareness is observe how your mind labels, judges, and creates. Because it does it with everything. When you walk out in nature, you don't see that oak tree. You just see an oak tree, a pond, a palm tree. Because in your mind, you know what that is. So your mind edits it together. When you see a tree, you're just seeing an oak tree. In your mind, they're all the same. You're not looking at it anymore. It's sad to know that we do that in nature. It's worse to know that we do it with each other. We label people and we write them off. This guy's a jerk. This woman talks too much. Whatever. We label people. And people do that with us as well. So it's very important to realize you are creating pain for yourself. It's not coming from anyone else. It's not coming from any outside situation. You have created that. Because between what you want and what you have, there's a huge gap. And that's where the resistance is, all right? So you got to stop judging and labeling. It becomes easier once you start out, like I said, with nature, and then realize you need to start moving up and doing it with people as well. It'll get easier to do. You'll become a little bit objective of the mind's thoughts. They won't have such a firm grip over you. Then you can allow the present moment to just unfold in front of you. Not fight against it, but work with it. Accept it as it is. It's taken billions of years and billions of things to happen for this moment to unfold in front of you like it is. But for you to think that things have to be the way you want for you to be happy is ridiculous. And then you're constantly twisting and turning people, places, and things and pitting yourself against the universe, trying to make the world fit into the very narrow area that you think it needs to be in. That's bullshit. So you got to stop doing that. It's a big thing. And it's been several years now. But to not have stress and anxiety and worry, it's freeing. It's true freedom. You're not going to get that from a sports car. You're not going to get that from a mansion. You're not going to get that from Miss America. It doesn't matter. You can only give that to yourself. Most of us think we're unworthy. So look, the important thing to remember though about this is I'm not telling you to accept a shitty situation and do nothing about it. It's still okay to say no. Because there are too many energy vampires out there that'll suck you dry from your life force energy. You still want to say no. You still have to be able to walk away from situations or people, but you don't want to do it from a reactive way. You're going to do it in a non-reactive way. You're going to do it from insight. You're going to accept the moment as it is, and then if you need to make changes or you want to do something, you're going to go from there. All right? Eckhart calls this surrendering to the now. Surrender, and Michael Singer talks about this a lot, and if you've never read the Surrender Experiment, I'm going to do that book next, it's life-changing. But people confuse surrender like waving the white flag and giving up. That's not what it is at all. You're actually taking back your power. You're not giving it away. Surrender is letting go of mental, emotional resistance to what is. And I'm telling you, I got to stress the point, this does not mean giving up or being complacent with crap. As Eckhart stated, true surrender does not mean to passively put up with whatever situation you find yourself in and do nothing about it. Nor does it mean to cease making plans or initiating positive action. Surrendering is yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. The only place where you can experience the flow of life is now. So to surrender to it is to accept the present moment unconditionally and without reservation. When you acknowledge that there is resistance, you're making resistance conscious. You're no longer coming from reaction and resistance. Once you acknowledge it, ask if there is anything you can do to change, improve, or remove yourself from the situation. And then take action on the one thing you can do in the now, not the other 100 things that you may or may not do in the future, or thinking about all the things you may or may have not done in the past. It's what you do right now. Tolle also states that external conditions that we're resisting also tend to shift or dissolve quickly when you surrender. It's powerful transformation. It's a powerful transformation of situations and people. If conditions do not shift immediately, your acceptance of the now enables you to rise above them instead of being pulled down into them like quicksand. Either way, though, guess what? You're free. And if you can't surrender, then take action immediately. Speak up or do something to bring about a change in the situation or remove yourself from it. Take responsibility for your life. Stop blaming other people. Stop being a martyr. Stop being a victim. Surrender does not transform what is at least not direct surrender transforms you when you've transformed your whole world. Outside will change. When you change the inner world, when you surrender to what's unfolding in front of you, that allows the inner world to stop judging and to stop labeling people. And then, because those two worlds are connected, your outer world changes, but it has to come as a byproduct of the inner change. That's why most of us spend our lives like chickens with our heads cut off, running around in the outside world trying to make changes that we can't make, not lasting change, because it has to come from inside. Your whole world is transformed that way because the world is only a reflection. Life is like a mirror. If you saw something in the mirror you don't like, you wouldn't attack the mirror, right? No, because you'd be attacking yourself. Become friendly with it, and it becomes friendly towards you. Give yourself some slack. There are no problems, only situations to be dealt with. You can either deal with the situation now or leave it alone and accept it as part of the isness of the present moment until you need to deal with it later. But don't worry about it. Don't obsess over it. Don't think about it again. See this week if you can catch yourself complaining. Just monitor your thoughts. See what's going on up there. See how much negative mind talk you've got going on and how many negative thought patterns are operating inside your mind. Once you start to realize it and you start to see yourself complaining, either through speech that you say or just thought, well, when you're complaining, you're not accepting what is. You're making yourself into a victim. So let's hit on some final quotes from the book before I summarize and wrap it up. Now, it is not the overall situation that you need to accept when you surrender, but just a tiny segment called now. Inner resistance cuts you off from other people. It cuts you off from yourself. It cuts you off from the world. It strengthens the feeling of separateness on which the ego depends for its survival. Surrender will move you closer to people. Through surrender, you'll accept what is, and that means accepting people as they are. You will not judge. You will not criticize. You will not reject. You will not label or attempt to change people when you accept. Resentment, moodiness, anger, and so on. You're no longer forced to act them out blindly, and you're less likely to project them onto others if you get inside right at the outset when it begins. Get inside your mind and find out what's going on. Just remember this. Primary reality is within. Secondary reality is without. If there's nothing you can do to change the here and now, and you can't remove yourself from the situation, then accept your here and now totally by dropping all inner resistance. The false, unhappy self that loves feeling miserable or resentful or sorry for itself can no longer survive. This is called surrender, but not because surrender is a weakness. It's called surrender because you are no longer bringing your personal opinions and wants and needs into every moment and attempting to twist that moment around to fit your needs. My friends, that is my very quick breakdown of The Power of Now. This is one of the most powerful books you will ever read. Eckhart Tolle is a genius. Everything that he does, I think you'll find, is deep and it's life-changing. All right? So remember, you are not your thoughts. Observe your thoughts to see them for what they truly are. To the present moment is all we ever have. This moment is all we ever have. So be more grounded in it. And remember to surrender to the now and accept what is. Why fight what is already in existence? Instead, whatever it is, allow it to be and surrender to it. These 3 lessons get deeper and deeper the longer you practice them. So if this piqued your interest, spend some time and go pick up a copy of the book. It's an absolute masterpiece. I'm really I've read it 5 or 6 times, and sometimes it feels like you're just scratching the surface, all right? And I'm definitely just scratching the surface with this video. So again, if you enjoyed it, let us know. Subscribe and like and all of those things you need to do to keep our engagement up. Let us know that you enjoyed it, and I'll come up with part 2 because there's a lot more that I want to discuss. So go out, grab your copy of The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It is a fantastic must-have book. Next time, we're going to be talking about the surrender experiment with Michael Singer. So today is a great day. Now is a great moment. It's the only moment we have. So go out and enjoy your day. Smile. Spread love and positivity to others. This never-ending cycle of abundance comes back to you. It's the secret, the magic of life. If you've not joined our Facebook group, make sure you do. It's a like-minded community of people empowering, supporting each other. And in turn, what did I just say? We support and empower ourselves. So we'd love to have you. It's facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. So facebook.com/groups/students of self-empowerment. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new Life 101 video, and later tonight, actually, we're going to have another guided meditation. We know you guys are enjoying those. Keep your messages and your emails coming. Make sure you visit our website, taylorwebb.org, TAYLORWEBB.org, or freelifetools.com, freelifetools.com. Both will get you there to the website. Take a look. We've got all sorts of items to help you along your spiritual journey. And I will see you back here tomorrow. Don't worry. Be happy and feel good. See you then.